All right, we'll start our interview. Today is Thursday, November 2nd, 2017, and we are interviewing Mr. George Shaffer at the Illinois State Library in Springfield, Illinois. Mr. Shaffer, could you tell me when your birthday is?
September 21, 1928.
And you are how old?
89.
89. My name is Joanne Jennings, and I'll be your interviewer today. And our court reporter today is Tina Hoyker. Please state for the recording what war and branch of service you served in.
I was in the Korean War, and I was in the United States Army.
And where were you born?
Springfield, Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell me a little bit about your family growing up, like your parents, what they did,
Well,
if you had any siblings?
Yes, I had 3 sisters
Mm-hmm.
and no brothers. 2 of the sisters are deceased. My parents are deceased. But a note of interest, my parents were deaf mutes.
Okay.
And they couldn't speak or hear, and therefore the lady that was interpreting with sign language down there, I used to be able to do
Mm-hmm.
some of that. Now, nothing like she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I've lost all my skills.
Yeah.
But they were, we had a Spartan type of life. It wasn't anything great, but we were all, I felt, educated through the Springfield system. And my mother, she passed away when I was rather young.
Mm-hmm.
My dad passed away when he got to be 88, so that wasn't too
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Mm-hmm. Now, what did he do for employment?
Oh, well, my dad started out when I was, of course, growing up. He was a baker.
Oh, yeah.
Down at 9th and Washington, which was Hartman's Bakery back then. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's all tore down. And
Mm-hmm.
anyway, but he was a baker there. And then in 1942, when the war started, my dad was trying to get into something different, and he got out to Sangamo Electric Company. And they didn't hire handicapped people at the time. But my dad, and they're needing people pretty bad, as you can imagine. So my dad and a couple of the deaf mutes were able to go to work there. And best thing ever happened to him.
Yeah.
Oh, it was all right. And I started to work at Sangamo, and then I, of course, when I went in the Army from there.
Mm-hmm. Did you enlist?
No, well, not at that time. I enlisted in the Navy and didn't pass.
Mm-hmm.
I enlisted in the Marines and didn't pass. And when it came time to the Korean situation, it was a big decision.
Now, when you say you didn't pass, what did
Physically.
you have? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't weigh enough in either case.
Okay.
So I don't have that problem today.
Neither do I.
But I didn't weigh enough, and maybe a little story you might be interested in. And when I went to the Navy, I wanted to go in the Navy. A friend of mine, you know how you talk each other into it. So I heard that if you ate a lot of bananas right before you go in, it's all a timing situation.
Uh-huh.
Right before you go in, you really pack on a lot of weight. Well, I'm eating bananas all the way up to Chicago, and I still didn't pass. So I don't know. But anyway, when it came time to go in, I didn't want the Navy, and I didn't want 4 years in the Marines. So I was drafted.
So you were drafted
Mm-hmm.
by the Army.
Yes.
And how old were you?
22.
22.
That was another reason why I didn't want the 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
you said you were working at Sangamo
At
Electric
that time,
then?
yes.
And then you were drafted? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Had you traveled much before that?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Not really. Locally around, but
You hadn't been out of the country or
oh
to a lot
no,
of
I
other
was not
states
out
or
of the
anything
country
like
at
that?
that. I
Yeah.
might have gone. I think we went to Reno one time. Me and a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of guys went to Reno, and well, we went out eating steak and come back eating watermelon. That's what you do with your money.
We get your money. What dates did you serve? Do you recall? What dates did you serve?
Oh,
When did you join?
I was drafted. I went in November of 1950,
Mm-hmm.
and I was discharged on November of 1952.
Okay, so when you were drafted in November of 1950, where did you go?
Oh, left Springfield and went down to Camp Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to remember this is approximately 5 years after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
everything shut down. You know how we do in this country. We just closed everything down, bases and everything. And all of a sudden, 5 years later, they got to have some place to have basic training for guys, and so they opened up Camp Leonard Wood,
Mhm.
Fort Leonard Wood,
Mhm.
and we got the privilege of going in and opening that camp and
Mhm.
cleaning out the barracks and kicking the coons and
I was
everything,
gonna
raccoons.
I was gonna
and
say, how
everything.
bad was it? It was probably
You
pretty
know,
bad, huh?
pardon?
It was pretty bad.
I
Has it
thought
been
it was,
vacant
but
for? Mhm.
it was paradise compared to Korea. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, they give you an idea. You know, they had to open up. They didn't have mops, brooms. They didn't have anything because whatever they had, I guess, was stolen or
Mm-hmm.
And so we go in there and we don't have much either. I'm talking about in the way of clothing and so forth. And it's getting cold. So a friend, his father, went to a hit a couple of war surplus stores. Are you familiar with those?
Mm-hmm.
They were well. Anyway, he went to the war surplus stores and bought us hoods and gloves, and we had a coat, I think. And anyway, we got some things like that from him through the war surplus store. Of course, we had to pay him,
But this was for, I mean, is this where you started basic training
yes,
then?
ma'am.
You were,
That was for basic training.
but you didn't have, they didn't issue you and that? That's.
Oh, they issued us things,
Mhm.
but at the time they didn't have it to issue
I see.
because so much of it was gone. They
Mhm.
just the supplies just didn't keep flowing like they would during the wartime. So when we went down there, we had to open it up, and within a couple of weeks they started getting more things in,
I see.
but it just took a while for the pipeline to fill up.
How many were there opening the camp? Do you?
Oh, how many we?
Yeah, how many of there
Oh
were?
gosh, that's kind of hard to say. I'd say probably a couple thousand of us.
Oh,
something like
okay.
that,
Okay.
And we went in there, and once we got once things started catching up, though,
Mhm.
it takes a while to
Mhm.
get the pipeline full, and after that was okay.
And then how long were you there?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. And this is where you did basic. And how was that for you? How was basic training for you?
Basic training wasn't bad. Um, I didn't have a great deal of trouble in basic training.
Mhm.
Uh, the only problem I had in basic training is keeping my mouth shut, and I'm serious. That got me in more KP than,
Can you give me an example?
well, yes, talking in the ranks.
Mhm.
I didn't quite take things serious enough,
Mhm.
and we had guys, cadre, in charge of the basic training World War II vets
Mm-hmm.
that were in the active reserve. And I'll tell you, you made that mistake once. They didn't, well, they were mad because they got reactivated.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And when they got reactivated, there was only one person they could take it out on. That was me.
Yep.
And I got a couple little episodes like that.
And then what was your punishment?
Oh, KP. I had to go and work in the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
clean out the greasy cans and pans and
Mm-hmm.
barrels and everything else.
So did they have somebody that normally did that job, or no? Anybody
Not
that
at
was in
the
trouble
time.
got out?
Not
Okay.
at the time. It's whoever they caught and got
Mhm.
in there. I don't recall who they had as a regular KP cadre who was doing the work.
Mhm.
Now, when I left Leonard Wood and went down to, I went to Camp Gordon, Georgia, in
Okay.
Augusta, Georgia.
Okay.
Went to a school down there.
And,
Now there, you didn't have to do KP.
and what school was that?
That was a signal school, radio school,
Okay.
and they felt that I would make a good radio operator, Morse code and also voice. And we were going, I forget how long I was going for a few weeks, probably 5, 6, 7 weeks, something like that.
Mhm.
And I was playing baseball one day, and I misjudged the fly ball, and it broke my finger.
Mhm.
Well, you can't do Morse code with a broken finger.
Right.
So they put me in a hospital. And I spent 5 or 6 weeks in the hospital because you must be able to perform the duties that you were doing before you got injured. Well, it took me that long to be able to come back.
So
The
you were
only
just
thing-
in the hospital the entire time? I mean, you had like a hospital room and.
Oh, yeah, I was in the
Oh, wow.
hospital along with everybody else.
Mhm.
And I kept on trying to get a medical leave, but I didn't get one.
Mhm. That's what I mean. You had to stay there the whole time. You
The
couldn't.
whole time. And
Couldn't go.
boring, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, what it really did for me, it just threw me completely out of sync with all the training. So I'm sitting here in Camp Gordon. I went back to school. Went back to school for a couple weeks. And then they called me, pulled me out of school, and threw me to Korea.
So you started out. Did you start out with one group of guys though, and they moved on because
Oh,
you were in the
yes,
okay?
yes.
Can you tell me about that? Were they from the Springfield
Well,
area
no,
or?
no. The people that I went to school with, they were from all over. There
Mhm.
was Air Force and a few Marines and mostly Army personnel
Mhm.
going to the school,
Mhm.
and all training to be radio operators.
Mhm.
And they decided that I should not go to intermediate school. I should go to high speed school, which was even better, you know that. And so when I got back to my training in this radio school, and I was still working on this high speed level, they they say we got to have X number of guys, and they just pick them up and pull them out of school.
So you were still with that same group of men,
No,
or
no.
no? They went on ahead
No,
of you because you
the
were.
group that I was with that originally went ahead.
Yeah.
They moved on,
Okay.
and
That's
so
what
I come in with I'm picking up with a new bunch of guys.
Mhm. Okay.
So anyway, that was basically it was easy duty. It wasn't hard, except that you had to.
Was that training like 8 hours a day, or what
Yes,
was that?
yes.
Did you also have physical training still, or?
Oh yeah, we had some physical training in the sense of we had to march to and from school, and also we had about an hour in there also physical training,
Mhm.
just calisthenics
Mhm.
basically.
Okay. And so then they chose you from there, and that's when you went to Korea.
I was one of the lucky ones.
You were one of the lucky ones.
I I left Camp Gordon and went to Seattle, Washington, one corner to the other.
And how long were you in Seattle?
Well, just, I'm not there yet.
Oh, okay,
I
sorry.
was going, but en route, I got probably the only leave I got the whole time I was in the Army. I got about I don't remember, 10-day leave or something like that at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then caught a plane out here at Springfield and went to Seattle. And
So you came back to Springfield for your 10-day leave?
yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. Then you're talking about with the group you're with. I got left behind again in Seattle. I don't know what happened. I'm ready to get on the ship. Duffel bags loaded on the ship, and I'm all set to go. And all I've got is my rifle and my bag,
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, they pulled me off the ship. They redlined me, as they call it.
Well, and you have no idea why.
I don't know why. Something different was wrong, not right with my records.
Were you the only one, or were there others?
Oh, I'm sure there were other guys,
Uh-huh.
but all the guys that I met and knew and got acquainted with,
Right.
see ya,
Again.
and here I am starting fresh again.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't believe it. So I spent like 3 weeks comes to my mind in Seattle before I got ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So they finally got me on a ship, and something happened. I don't know. I got to Japan, and they decided that they were going to send me to a school in Japan. No, I don't know. It was a what they call a chemical, biological, radiological school,
Mm-hmm.
CBR school. Why?
And so you did
Yeah,
that training also?
So I went to this school. I think it lasted a month.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got out of that school, they pulled me out and sent me down to Sasebo, Japan, which is one of their places they ship out to Korea.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe I was going to get to stay there, but it didn't work.
That didn't happen, huh?
No. It's amazing what guys will do to try to get out of something.
Were you trying to get out of it?
Well, I was trying to get out of going to Korea.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I even went off for football.
You even went out for football?
So they're a bunch of guys that are playing football. Of course, the cadre that they're leading these guys on, and all these guys got in their heads that they're going to play football and get a league formed, and they won't have to go to Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody they're nuts.
Mm-hmm. Or were they trying to get maybe injured so they didn't have to go?
Oh no, I don't think. I did get my nose broken playing football.
Did you?
Yeah, but it didn't keep me from getting on that ship.
No. How were you feeling emotionally? Were you afraid, or were you excited, or were you?
Well, at first, that's a good question, because at first it was an adventure.
When you were going to basic training, like in Fort
Leonard? No, yeah, kind of that way. But going to Korea, actually getting on the ship and going across to Busan, it was all kind of like an adventure. The whole thing was kind of exciting. And
how long was that trip on that ship? How long did that take?
About a day.
Okay.
2 days. I don't remember. Because we went to Busan, which was at one time, was really in deep trouble. That's about the last toehold they had on the peninsula. But went to Busan, and that's where I got my orders. That's where they assigned me to something. They could have assigned me to any place, but they assigned me to this field artillery battalion. And so I go get on a train and go north to this area. Then I go into at that time it was more North Korea, Central and North Korea, to where I was assigned. What am I leaving out?
You started to tell me it was an adventure.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, really it was. I didn't mind that. So, once I knew where I was going,
Mm-hmm.
they take the mystery out.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, okay, all right, I can handle it. It wasn't too concerned. In fact, I think back, I'm pretty cocky about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's my thinking.
What time of the year was this?
This would be
Was it winter?
no. This would be late summer. I think it was late summer,
Mhm.
July, August, or June, somewhere in
What
there.
was the climate like there in
The
summer?
weather up there was a lot like Chicago weather.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, Chicago's only about, 200 miles north of us,
Mm-hmm.
but that was the coldest place. Eh, The wind would get to whistling around those hills, and you just freeze to death.
And really hot in the summertime then? So when you
Yes,
arrived, it was
very
really
hot.
hot? Mm-hmm.
That was another thing. Once we got to Korea, summer wasn't too bad, but winter clothing was bad. It took us a while to get some winter clothing, but once we were issued parkas, we were in good shape.
Okay, so a train took you there.
Yes, we went. We went and trained going north, and we had a bunch of Canadian troops in there with
Mhm,
us,
mhm.
and we had a lot of fun with those guys. They were all right. Baloney spreaders and didn't believe anything they said.
Yeah.
They probably thought the same thing about us, but they were good people.
Okay. So you said you were assigned to, I'm sorry, I didn't write that down. What was the unit?
955 Field Artillery Battalion.
Okay. So then what were your responsibilities?
Okay, when I went there, the first place that I was assigned in that um, that battery, I was assigned as a radio operator
Mm-hmm.
in headquarters battery, which was a pretty good assignment. It was all right. That was better than being down in the firing batteries.
Mm-hmm.
And since at least they thought I had some expertise with radios, so I did that. And what we did was we had the battalion radios. In other words, our battalion relied upon these radios to control the batteries, and they would control their fire missions from, in other words, they get this information from the radio. So it's very important
Mm-hmm.
to an artillery outfit.
Right.
And incidentally, this battalion crest.
This blue right here?
Yeah, that
Put that
is
on the camera.
that came from that started out as a Civil War infantry regiment that started up in the New York area, Brooklyn actually, and they fought. I don't know how much. I keep on trying to find records. I found some records of them, but
Mhm.
they also have a situation where they were able to determine when what they did in the Civil War, and I couldn't get much out of that. Later on, they were designated as a National Guard outfit, and they were given the assignments of handling 155 millimeter howitzers, big guns,
Mhm.
and that's what we did. That was their main function, was to fire and support the troops. Later on, by the way, I was an FPFC by now.
You were an FPSC?
Pardon?
You were an FPSC?
A PFC? What
Yeah,
was your
I'm sorry. Yes, PFC.
PFC?
Thank you.
Private First Class?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was a PFC when That wasn't too bad. And then when I went in there, um, I always cracked the joke that one day I was a PFC with 25 people.
Mhm.
Okay. It seemed like the next day I was a PFC in charge of 25 people. And that was disaster because there were corporals in there and they put me in charge of it ahead of some people had higher ranks.
Why did they do that?
Because some of these guys were going to be going home fairly soon.
I see.
And that wasn't fun.
No, I don't imagine. What was the highest rank you attained when you
Sergeant first class.
sergeant first class?
That didn't come until later.
Mhm.
The one thing you'll notice in Korea, awful lot of sergeants coming home because sergeants, they just didn't seem to last very long. And a lot of guys like myself come home a sergeant
Mhm.
because somebody had to take over.
Mhm. So you said when you first got over there, you were in the headquarters. You weren't out.
I was in a headquarters battery, and you have a headquarters battery, then you have what you call the firing batteries,
Mm-hmm.
and these firing batteries that's where the guns were, and they did the firing. Headquarters disseminated the information to the firing batteries so they could complete their mission.
You did that by radio.
Oh well, yeah, by radio.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, it wasn't until later on, but when I was there, I had the responsibility of manning radio operators on the observation points or up on the line. Okay? In other words, we were supporting the Koreans. Well, nobody could speak Korean, so we had to put people up on the line to handle the radios and send information back and forth with our different batteries or headquarters. And that was my responsibility since that was, I'm getting way ahead of myself.
No, you're not. You're fine.
Well, I eventually became radio section chief, and that's how I made sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sergeant that was there before, he ended up having to go home early. He got hurt.
He got hurt.
And
How long were you there before you became sergeant? Do you know?
I would say 4 or 5 months,
Mhm.
something like that.
Now, were you? You said you entered November 1950, and you separated service November 1952.
Yes,
Were you over there the entire time?
just 1 year.
1 year. Okay.
Yeah, the second year, that's when I was in Korea.
The second year. So the first year was
So
training
the
in the
first year was
States,
training and
school,
a few
and
weeks in the
Mhm.
hospital and
Mm-hmm.
the schools
Mm-hmm.
and travel time and
I see.
you know all that.
And then, okay. So you were assigned to the headquarters battery. What was your lodging arrangements? Where did you sleep?
Oh, we had tents.
Tents.
We had tents, and especially headquarters was far enough back that you could have a tent. The problem again was having to staff the people on the main line of resistance to communicate and handle the firing missions. And it wasn't a problem for me, except if I got caught up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But then, all in all, it worked out okay.
Mm-hmm. Was it okay? How many tents? How big was the?
Well, I don't know how many men we had. I had.
Was it one person to a tent, or were there several people?
Oh
in
no,
a tent?
no, they had big squad
Big.
tents.
Okay.
Most of the tents would probably accommodate 20 guys.
I
I'm
see.
guessing
Mm-hmm.
about 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had another a tent in my section, and that was where we kept the battalion radio. You know, that was the main radio,
Mm-hmm.
and of course the officers had their stuff. But
Like how far were you from the combat line zone?
I would say in most cases within about 10 miles. About 10 miles.
Mhm.
And some were a lot closer, but I don't remember.
Mhm.
I know that a lot of times we would get orders and we would move the entire battery, all 3 batteries and headquarters, up closer to the front because they were anticipating whatever it might be.
Mhm.
They might have a situation where they were expecting an offensive, our offensive, and they would move us up close to give us more penetration.
Right.
And that was usually a little where the risk was. One time we operated mostly in the central part of Korea, right about the central, maybe in most cases a little north of the 38th parallel.
Mhm.
We moved over to the east coast and just took a convoy and went over there to support an offensive. And I can't remember the division name that we were supporting. But we supported the ROKs most of the time, the Koreans. And when we did that, well, then we had, as I said, we had to man the OP. So I don't know if this makes any sense to you or not.
Some, I mean, and then at one point, were you, you saw combat?
Well, yeah.
Were you stationed closer to the, or were you always at headquarters battery?
Oh, I always assigned to headquarters battery.
Okay.
And as I said, headquarters battery usually was further back.
Mm-hmm.
But there were times when we moved ahead to anticipate a jump off or something like that, and that gave us more depth penetration.
Right. Okay.
The biggest sweat that I had the whole time was having my people up there on the line.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we put our people up there, and there were times I was there that you had to have, well, if you got caught up there at a time when they jumped off at you, you had a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
You understand me?
I understand you. If you want to share any of those, you can. If you would rather not, you don't have to.
Well, what we did, as an example, I had one guy. He was a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was more trouble than anybody you ever saw. He was always getting in trouble. And he was in my section, and probably it was a stroke of genius. I swear it was. Because I asked him I took him up to the line. I went up there with him, told him what he had to do, and I said, anytime you have a problem with any of those guys coming at you, throw grenades and then duck. I'm just very serious.
Yes.
That's what I told him. And and that guy loved it up there.
Mm-hmm.
The last I ever heard of him. No more trouble, no more nothing. He just loved it up there because they left him alone.
Mm-hmm.
That was what he needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was tickled to death.
Yeah.
I was so happy to find somebody because I was always having trouble getting guys to man the OP, man that radio up there.
Mm-hmm. But he did it.
Oh, he loved it. I always wondered what happened to him. He wasn't he wasn't a bad guy.
Mhm.
He was stubborn and he didn't like people telling him what to do and that sort of thing. You know, he just wasn't a very well disciplined good person. But man, he did a beautiful job up there.
Did you see him after that though?
No,
Or
never.
no?
Not after I left the outfit.
Okay.
Now, I couldn't tell you what happened to him. I often wondered.
Uh-huh. Service awards. Did you receive any medals, or
I received what everybody else received.
which was
Service medal and,
Korean service?
yeah,
medal?
and I forget
You
these two right here.
um,
Did
you receive 2 Bronze Stars?
I don't think those are bronze stars. I don't know for what, could be battle zone stars. I don't know. I was told I was up for a bronze star, but I never received it, and I didn't worry about it.
Hmm.
But I think
Why did you were you told why you received the Bronze Star, but you said you just never received it? Why did you receive it? Or
well, I was put up for it I was going toward the OP, up to the main line, and I had a radio, and I was bringing 2 other guys with me, and we come under mortar fire,
Mhm.
and
Were you traveling like by Jeep or
No,
something? No, you were
by feet,
by feet.
my legs.
Okay, okay.
And that's I got the other 2 guys up there okay, but when I went up there, I fell to the ground, hurt my knee, and ruined the radio.
It ruined the radio.
Broke the radio.
Oh. Well, then you
All
were
that
kind of
work-
stranded, weren't you?
Pardon?
Were you like stranded then if you didn't have your radio?
Well, we were taking a new radio up there.
Mm-hmm.
So what we had to do was turn around and go back and get another one
Mm-hmm.
and go through that fire again. But here again, you heard, like they say, did you get injured? Well, not really.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I banged up my knee. I still can't bend it properly.
Mm-hmm.
But the trouble is, the worst things that you can have happen to you when you're in the Army or service is tell a doctor or tell your officer that you hurt your knee, or you hurt your back, or you hurt your elbow.
And why is that the worst thing you can do?
Well, it's the worst thing because they're not going to take you off the line and let you get that knee examined. They just don't do it.
Uh-huh.
They have more people going to sick call than they would have
Right.
doing the job. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, I did that, and then I got tangled up with some barbed wire one time. And
How'd that come about?
well, it came about that we were trying to, we were going to go into a position that had been abandoned by the Koreans, the North Koreans. And we were going through there trying to clean it up so we could set up for our line and so forth. And I don't know what happened, but I got hung up on some barbed wire. But it's another thing, doctor looks at it and shot of tetanus, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, which is okay. You can't go to the hospital for every little thing you get.
Mm-hmm.
But and then there was another time I got hurt, which they didn't know anything about. I was with some of my guys back of the lines, nice little stream there, so we decided to go swimming. So, you get kind of silly. So we went swimming.
Were you not supposed to be doing this?
Of
or?
course not.
Of course not.
We're supposed to be doing that.
Okay.
And for the very reason because I dove in the water and there was a stone or something there that I didn't see, and it took a big gouge out of my hip.
Mm.
And so they sent me back. Well, you see the MASH movies,
Mhm.
well, that was the same kind of deal. Helicopter ride, the whole bit. And so I went in there, and the guy, he starts to write me up for a Purple Heart. I says, I don't think you better do that. I didn't dare tell him how I got hurt. And so there was a Purple Heart I should have received and didn't. But I thought it might be wisdom not to be talking about it too much.
Uh-huh.
So.
Okay. And what about like some of the friendships you formed? So you got separated from your first group, your second group, and now you're
I
over
got
in Korea.
separated from everybody. The one guy from Chicago, and a guy from I can't think of.
He was just
I've
from
lost it.
Illinois.
Oh yeah, he's right next door to me. You know, like
Mhm.
these guys, and they came back. I came back with them. We come back together.
Mhm.
This guy, this sergeant from. I'm sorry, I've lost it.
Did you
It's a little bitty town outside of Springfield.
did you stay in contact with them then for
I
your
did until he passed away.
after service you still had
Now this guy from Chicago, we kept in touch for a while, probably like 10 years or something like that, you know. But then we lost track.
Mhm.
Not too many of them, not too many guys that I ran around with. There was a guy from Springfield that he worked out at Sangamo with me. We both went in through basic, but after basic, we lost each other in the military service, but we became friends again once we come back.
Mhm.
In fact, I was in his wedding.
Mhm. I didn't know if you had stayed in contact with any of the guys that you were actually in Korea with. No. No. Back to your like lodging and your food and stuff like that. So you stayed in these tents, and you said it was very cold in the wintertime. Was it
Yes, so we had,
comfortable in the tent or no?
well, we had sleeping bags, which of
Mhm.
course helped,
Did you have
But-
cots or like bunk
yeah,
beds?
on a cot.
Cot.
And we had fuel oil stoves,
Mm-hmm.
and we would heat the tent with those
So you had some
till
heat.
unless somebody let it get too hot and burn the tent down.
Mm-hmm.
We did that a time or two.
How cold do you think it was there? What was the
Oh,
temperature?
I would say that winter wasn't as cold as the previous one, but I would say where we were, you were talking, 0, -10, something like that.
Yeah.
It got
Very
pretty cold.
Yeah. What did you have as far as food? What did you eat?
Oh, sea rations, a lot of
Sea
sea rations.
Mhm.
And you remember seeing those tanks in
In the pictures? Yeah,
Pictures?
we'll look at those here in a
yeah,
little bit.
those tanks in there. That was always, if there was a tank in the area and he'd been running, that was always a good way to warm up your sea rations. Put them on the manifold.
Uh-huh.
And as long as you didn't leave them there too long and they'd explode.
Okay.
And boy, those tankers didn't like that a little bit.
What was in the sea rations?
Oh, well, we had sea rations. Probably we had pork chops in a bit of grease, lard,
Mm-hmm.
and we had hamburger.
So it was pre-cooked. The
Well,
hamburger?
it was better to have them heated.
But that's what I mean. It was like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
You
you-
said it was
yeah, you
pre-cooked.
just heat
and
it up.
was in-
What they used to do, if it was a large group that were going to use sea rations, they'd have a big, like a tub of boiling water,
Hmm.
and you'd put those sea rations in there,
I see.
and then take them out, open them up. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
But like the pork chops, they were good, but you never got them. They're just so greasy.
Yeah.
No wonder guys had bad stomachs. But there was, and of course you had the crackers and all that sort of stuff, you know. Now we had in headquarters battery, you know, we had a mess sergeant, a guy that did the cooking, and most of the time. Most of the time, he was usually eating a stick of butter to line his stomach so he could drink whiskey.
Oh.
I'm serious.
Oh.
Yeah, but, you know, and now we had a mess sergeant
Mhm.
that was the best mess sergeant I ever saw.
Mhm.
Yeah, he come in there and kind of like an old man, and you knew they dug him up somewhere out of some post, you know. But that guy could cook. No, never ate bread. We ate biscuits. I mean, and if he had opened a can of cherries, he made cherry pie. So you always knew what kind of a cook you had. If you ate cherries just by themselves, or you got cherry pie, and you knew what kind of a cook you had.
Mhm.
He didn't last long though. The guys up in Battalion headquarters, so forth, they found out how good of a cook he was.
They got wind of him
And
and they stole him.
they somehow
Uh-huh.
had to transfer him,
Uh-huh.
and we lost him. But he
Mhm.
was good for a while.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess these are.
Were you when you were there in Korea, did you ever have any leave time? Did you
Oh yes,
could
yes,
you tell me about that?
yes. Everybody got 5 days R&R.
Mm-hmm.
That was rest and
Relaxation? Rest and is that what it was called?
recuperation or something. I'm not
Okay.
sure what it was, but and you really looked forward to it. You saved up your money, and I went to Tokyo.
Did you go by yourself or did you go with
No,
some
no,
of your
no.
buddies?
I went with another guy. Another little story there. The guy that I went with, I hardly knew him. He was the same outfit, and he was right ahead of me in line. And it turned out he was, I think, the 10,000th GI to go through there.
Uh-huh.
They made a big celebrity out of him. See,
At Tokyo?
you know, well, yeah, in Tokyo, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the army, you know, how they publicize these things. And they ask him, "Have you got a buddy that?" It's me right here. And by gosh, we had our own private car and everything else, taking us into Tokyo. Oh, that was fun.
Now, how far was that from your camp?
Oh, that was well, we had to. It took about a day to. You took a truck down south, close to Busan,
Mm-hmm.
the harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Get on a ship. Take you about a day to get out there.
Wow.
Get to Tokyo.
Okay.
And it was pretty good. And I'm guessing at these times because I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, but I had no idea if it was an
Yeah.
hour or if
No,
it was
no,
a
no,
day. Okay.
These were usually it usually took you about a day to get to the harbor, and then a day to get to Tokyo. And of course, they're the first thing you got to get cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't let a bunch of barbarians hit
Mhm.
Tokyo like that. But anyway, we'd get cleaned up and be assigned to a hotel, and we got 5 days.
So
Wonderful.
that travel time there wasn't part of your 5
Oh,
days?
no. No,
Oh,
no, no.
okay.
No, it was just wonderful.
So you got to stay in Tokyo for 5 days at a hotel.
Yep.
Not a tent. You got real food.
Oh, real food, all the milk you wanted to drink.
Oh.
Believe me, all the milk you wanted to drink.
Uh-huh.
And you know, and a lot of guys do a lot of celebrating,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not particularly smart, but I just told myself that I am not going to spend any time in this 5 days with a hangover.
Uh-huh.
So when we got, well, the first thing they did was give me some champagne because we had this.
You were the 10,000th person, or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
They
we
were
had this
celebrating you. Okay.
status, you know, and
Mhm.
we go in there. They got a bottle of champagne and everything there, you know. And oh man, so so some of the other guys come in. They helped us polish it off, you know,
Uh-huh.
and I drank that, and that was the closest I ever came. But the rest of the time, I was sober as anything, eating good. Oh, I ate good.
What did you have to eat?
Oh, steak.
Yeah.
Steak, and there was some, I remember steak and chicken, and it was hot,
Mhm.
you know. It wasn't something that you carried in your mess kit and got cold by the time you found a place to eat it, you know.
Right.
Oh, it was fun. That was probably my own admission, the closest I ever came to going AWOL.
Really.
I did not want to go back. I did not.
How
want
long had you been there at that point, or
to.
how
Oh,
long
I
did you
don't
have
remember.
to
6
finish
months,
out your?
7 months.
So you're only halfway through your
Yeah.
time there.
Maybe like 8 months. I don't really remember.
What time of the year was this? Was it winter time or summertime or?
No, I think it was probably early spring, something like
Yeah.
that. I'm
It was
thinking,
nice
but
weather.
I'd have to try and
Mhm.
connect dates.
Mhm.
But oh, that was great.
Hmm.
Oh, guys, they
So it sounds like that was your favorite memory of
oh,
your.
and the thing was, like what I said, when I first hit Korea, so what? You know, it was a big adventure.
Mhm.
But when I was going back from R&R, I knew what I was getting into,
Mhm.
and I didn't like it. I didn't want to go back.
Mhm.
But you do.
But you did, yeah.
You go back. you just know what you're getting into by then. You know, you've been wised up.
Can you tell me what else you did on leave, or
Oh,
you ate well and you slept in a?
well, much to my chagrin,
Mhm.
I had a picture taken of myself and my date,
Mhm.
you know, and she's a nice looking lady, young
Mhm.
lady, you know. I had a picture of it, and I never really thought about it, you know, and I got discharged, and a couple years later I get married,
Mhm.
and who should happen to see the picture?
Your wife.
My wife. She teased me about that picture for 60 years. I'm serious. She teased me about that. Just give me, and you know, and of course, I kept on telling her. I guess I was pretty amorous at the time, but I'm sitting there holding the young lady's hand.
Uh-huh.
We're in this nightclub, you know,
Uh-huh.
and the friend of mine, the guy that was 10,000, he was sitting there. So there's three of us at the table, and I'm holding her hand and get a picture taken. And I tell my wife, really, this guy, this lady is his girlfriend. The only trouble is, she says, why you holding his hand? And then, my wife was pretty sensible. She had, and it's all before I met her, so
Exactly. Sounds
so
like.
she took it pretty good, but she just gave me an awful beating up over that one.
But she
We
let you keep
laughed.
the picture, didn't she?
Pardon?
She let you keep the picture.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised I haven't seen that picture in there.
I don't think it is in
No,
here.
I don't believe it is either.
But I'm gonna.
Oh, that's too
look
bad.
at
She was a
some
nice looking young
stuff.
lady.
Um,
I don't know where that picture is.
this is what I want to see.
And
Can you tell me
I-
about this? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, this is a safe conduct pass that they gave
I'm
to
gonna hold it up to the camera.
that they gave to the Koreans. In other words, to come over and
To the North Koreans?
Yeah, North Koreans or the Chinese at the time too.
And how did they give it? How did they?
Well, usually they fly a plane over and just bomb them with it, you know.
Uh-huh.
Now this one, I don't know if it was at the same time, but we had some Navy jets bomb us with free passes to surrender, just like that. And I guess they lost track of the hill or wherever it was, and they bombed us with that. You know, throw these leaflets all over the place.
So there is some writing on this. It says Safe Conduct Pass. It says Soldier of the UN Forces. This certificate guarantees good treatment to any enemy soldier desiring to cease fighting. Take this man to your nearest officer and treat him as an honorable prisoner of war. So, and this was dropped by plane and you picked it
by
up?
plane.
And you
And
picked it
I
up?
don't know if that one, I do think it was one that was dropped on us
Mm-hmm.
by our own planes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you tell me what that is?
Oh,
We have some pictures. You brought pictures, so we're going to go through some of those.
this is the ship that I went to Japan.
From
There
the
was
States?
3,500 of us.
That's the one you took from.
Yeah,
Oh.
there was around 3,000 Army and about 500 Marines.
U.S.
On that,
Naval Ship
on that
General M.C. Meigs.
Yeah. All right, this is part of the radio section bunch. Right after I got there. That is one of the tents that we had.
And, well, I was going to say, do you know which one you are in this?
Yeah.
And it looks like there's a Korean boy there with you, too.
Yeah, that's another story.
Is this the same picture?
That's me right there.
With the hat?
Without the hat.
Without the hat.
Second from, I guess.
Second from the right?
Right.
Okay. So clear on
Now
that.
that Korean boy, a lot of guys did that over there. They'd adopt an orphan boy and take care of him.
Did he do things for you guys? Did he? I interviewed another veteran. I wanted to say he would like bring stuff from town or run errands for him, kind of. No.
No, we weren't that close to
You weren't that
civilization.
close. Here's some of the tanks you talked about, maybe.
Yes, that's exactly right. And the tanks, especially in the wintertime, when there was a lot of ice and snow, it was hard for them to go around because the ice and everything would be packed
Mm-hmm.
on that road from
Mhm.
traffic, and they'd be trying to go up to the line or going back. I don't remember.
Looks like some of the
All right.
terrain.
This is one I included simply to give you an idea of the terrain
Mm-hmm.
that we had to deal with.
When it snowed, like how much snow are we talking?
Oh, it was not unusual to see a foot of
A
snow.
foot of snow. Okay.
Not unusual at all.
Mm-hmm.
At times it got heavier. Of course, it accumulate. That was the biggest problem. But that's an idea of the terrain. All right. Yeah, this is like MASH.
I see a helicopter.
Yeah. Came in and picked up one of our guys.
Oh, so it's picking up wounded?
Yeah. Mark asked me if I remembered the name of the bridge. I don't. This is the bridge that the Air Force knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
And see, there's the span of it is is down, and we had to, the engineers had not created a pontoon bridge yet that we could cross. And so we were moving to a different position and had to cross that river.
How did you like walked across this?
Well,
You had
we had
boats?
trucks that moved us.
The water wasn't so deep that you could.
Oh no, we
more-
waited for a bridge, for a
Some more.
pontoon bridge. It don't take them very long to put one up, it's just to get them there to do it.
I'm just putting these on here. Here's more tanks.
Oh, it's just, oh yeah, this is just some more tanks. Like I said, that was a good way to heat up your sea rations.
Oh, this one looks like a lot of snow.
Yeah,
Is that tent? What is that tent? Is that a?
that tent was called the Metro tent. That was the battalion radio in there, and this truck, what we would do was back that truck up to the tent, close it on, and use the battery power system to keep the radio going. That's how we fed electricity to that radio. And then if you wanted to move that truck afterwards, you had to pull the plugs and clean them because they would be all fouled up.
I like this one.
Oh, yeah. Now this is a selfie.
So, yes,
That's a selfie circa 1950.
that's awesome. Do you remember who this gentleman
Yeah,
is with you?
Powers. Yeah, his name was Powers. He's corporal.
Was he from Illinois or?
No.
And
no,
you're the
I
one on
don't-
the left, correct?
Pardon?
You're the one on the left.
Yes,
here?
ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure where I was or what I'd been doing, but it looked like I could use a shower.
How often were you able to shower?
Well, I'll tell you how we got showers over there. We would, well, just to give you an idea, I remember one case where there's somebody said that they got a shower unit over there somewhere. You know,
Mhm.
maybe half a mile or a mile, I don't know.
Mhm.
I said, I don't need a shower. I had a shower 2 weeks ago. I don't need to go to a shower. But that's what shower unit would set up with a creek.
Uh-huh.
Plenty of water there, you know.
Uh-huh.
And they
But seriously, you like showered once every 2 weeks or something? No?
tried to do it. But I imagine it was like that.
You tried to do it how often?
Oh, I'd say 1 to 2 weeks.
1 to 2 weeks.
Well, anyway, I goes in and takes a shower, and I'm still arguing with this guy. I really don't thinking, and the black is just coming over out of my hair. And after a while, you lose perspective of things.
Yeah.
But cold, this is winter time.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing about the shower unit, you could go in, and you could keep anything that you wanted: boots, hat, coat, whatever you wanted. But anything else, what you didn't want, you just threw in a pile. And you'd go in and you'd wash in the shower and come out, and they'd issue you clean clothes.
Oh, okay.
And that was kind of neat. But if you had, if you had a real good pair of socks that you didn't want to lose,
Mhm.
well, you stick them down in your boot. They usually didn't replace boots, but they'd replace everything else.
Back to this little selfie. I just want to read what you have on the back. It says, Powers and I took this picture ourselves by looking into the camera and snapping it. So yeah, a 1950 selfie.
Yeah, that's right.
Were you able to receive mail over there?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we got mail call and packages.
How often do you recall receiving mail?
A couple, 3 times a week, maybe,
Mhm.
something like that.
Mhm.
But and I'm guessing, I don't remember.
And did you send mail? Did you send letters
Yeah,
home?
well, yes, I tried to write to the
Mhm.
family,
Mm-hmm.
and I was engaged when I went over there.
Were you?
Oh, yes. And I, of course, wrote her, and she wrote me. And I forget what period of time it was, but then she decided that she was gonna go in a different direction.
Mhm.
So,
So you got a Dear John letter?
yeah,
Mhm.
I sure wish I had kept that letter.
Yeah.
But I was so, do you realize, but I got so drunk.
Mhm.
I mean, I was falling all over the place. I know that. And, and it's kind of a risky place to get drunk.
Yeah.
But all the other guys, they were kidding me about the Dear John, but they took care of me.
Yeah.
They made
Yeah.
sure that
Yeah.
I was all right.
Mhm.
And had this one guy, I think he was from Tennessee. And he just gave me a hoorah about the whole thing, just giving me a hard time to the point that I was getting a little bit aggravated at him,
Mhm.
And he got a letter.
Yeah, there you go.
He got a letter though. Wasn't so much a Dear John, but his wife saying, we're doing real good. And where I forget something about his money he's saving, sending home and all that. And it would really be helpful if you could stay over there another 6 months.
Oh.
And of course, we and turnabout became fair
There
play.
you go.
But after a while, you just laugh at it. You don't worry about it. Yeah, you can't dwell on something like that too long.
No.
Oh yeah, this is
Do you know who that is with you? That's you?
that's me. I don't.
Are you on the right or the left?
Oh, I'm one wearing the helmet
The one wearing the helmet.
and the
Okay.
continuous cigarette in his hand.
And you're, like we said, what, 23 maybe in these pictures?
Probably about 23. I think I
23.
probably weighed 120 pounds at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here I am again. Yeah, this is. I don't know what. I don't know where we were, but that's me right there.
Are you holding a camera? No, you're holding a gun.
Yeah, I'm holding a rifle.
Okay. I just put my glasses on so I could
Yeah,
see what that
that,
was.
I don't know where we were. We might have been at some, like a USO show or something like that. We had a couple of those.
And then it says, no, Chuck is in the background. So,
Oh, that,
yeah,
Chuck is the
one
little-
of my fans snapped my picture. You said, note, Chuck is in background.
That's that little kid.
Oh, okay. We have, yeah, he's in those other pictures that I showed
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah. Mhm. And here's one with a little girl.
Yeah, this is probably what the same thing. It was a Korean group that performed, and that's some little girl. I think.
Oh, they perform. Okay.
So I think I asked her for a date, and she said no.
Did you have any like USO? Do they have that?
Yes, you remember? I don't know. It was way before your time, but Danny Kaye.
Of course, I
Anybody?
know who Danny Kaye.
Huh?
Yes, I know who Danny Kaye is. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't mean to say.
But anyway,
yeah.
he put on a show, good show.
Okay.
That was one of the. Then we had some Korean groups, that
Mhm.
performed, but Danny Kaye was the only USO
The only. Okay.
group that I know of.
Okay. We're doing good. Are you doing okay?
Oh, I'm doing fine.
Okay.
I'm enjoying myself.
Good. Good. You want to talk about that one or no?
My wife was grossed out over this one.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I just told her I found one of my long lost buddies,
There's a
so-
cave there. It looks like a cave.
Yeah, we had to go and clear that cave
And
because
it's
it was
a.
in our area, and we had to make sure it was all clear and nobody
Human
was hiding
skull?
in there.
Is that what
you know.
that is? A human skull?
And then I
Uh-huh.
found that skull, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, I had to.
Well.
So it's better off not bring those pictures home. But I did. I don't know what I was doing.
Is there, let's see, so you were there until November 1952, is that what we're thinking? And then you came um, back to the States? Were you immediately discharged, or did you
No,
have to be here a
I
while? What
came
was it?
back to the States and um, we all kind of scattered out, and I went to Fort Custer up in Michigan,
Okay,
and that's where I was separated. I took a 30-day leave from Fort Custer,
okay.
and they um, now that was where one of my buddies that actually just lived north and a little bit to the west of Springfield.
I wanted to ask you about,
Burkett was his name.
it was what?
Burkett.
Burkett?
Yeah, we were in Custer, and of course we had some time up there, so we went out on the town a few times, and it took him. I remember we went back to the camp, kind of late, and he was sick. Oh, what was the matter with him? Awful sick. So I took him back to camp, put him in the barracks, and I went to mine. Next morning, went over and checked on him. He was still real sick. And by gosh, I took him to hospital.
Mhm.
And he stayed there for a couple of months at least.
God.
He was
This was back here in the States?
no, that was
Oh,
up
over
at
in Korea?
no, up in Fort Custer, Missouri, Michigan.
Uh-huh.
And you know, I kept in touch with him, and come find out when he got discharged, he married his nurse. So, okay.
Yeah.
But he was a sick one. I forget what he had.
I'm looking on this paper that you filled out, battles or campaigns that you were in. Heartbreak Ridge.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about Heartbreak Ridge?
Well,
What do you remember?
Heartbreak Ridge. Of course, you're not there. You're firing from several miles away. But I don't know how many thousands of rounds we pumped into that place.
Mhm.
We just kept on hammering and hammering, and
Were you shooting too, or were you
No,
just,
no, I
you were
was-
you were telling them, you were
yeah,
radio
we were.
operator.
It was our information. The Fire Direction Center would get a message.
Mhm,
They got a target,
mhm.
and they figure out where that target is, and then I relay that information to the firing batteries. Okay, here are your coordinates, and then here's your pattern of fire,
Mhm,
and that's what they would do.
mhm.
But I was not on Heartbreak Ridge.
You weren't on.
No, I was not there.
Mhm.
That was a battle we had, same way with Chorwan, or the Iron Triangle.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about the Iron Triangle.
If you see on a map, the Chorwan, it was a triangle, Chorwan, Kumwa,
Mhm,
and Pyongyang.
mhm,
I think
mhm. Yep.
they were a triangle there, and for some reason or other, I never did understand why they did it, but there must have been a reason. The Chinese and the North Koreans heavily fortified the area. I know one thing, it controlled several roads.
Mhm.
So they heavily fortified that area, and we, kept on fighting with them till we took it away from them.
So then I was gonna, did you want to add anything else to anything while you were in Korea? Is there anything else you want to talk about, or any special memories?
I had
any-
thought that but I've lost it now, so.
Well, if you think of it, we can, go back to that, or, so you came back to the States and you were here,
Oh,
you said you were in Michigan.
I
What do you,
know.
okay, okay.
You might be interested in. Oh, here it is. I think it's in here. I want to show you.
Okay.
Korea, us guys in Korea, we're always moaning and groaning that nobody paid any attention to us when we come home. Well, that may be true in Springfield, but let me. So I come in on this ship. Oh, that's a map, unless you want to see it. And if you look about in the center of it, you'll see where the Iron Triangle is. Little bit above the 38th parallel. You figure it out?
I think so. I found two of them. Right.
There's a triangle between those three cities. And
Here we go.
of
I
course,
got it
I
in
don't know
focus.
why they so heavily fortified that place, but they did.
Right. Here.
And it just took forever to, I think we about flattened the ground.
Hmm.
Yeah. Take a look at the prices in there.
This is from Seattle.
Mhm.
A menu. Oh. Steak. A top sirloin is $2.25. A ribeye steak is $1.75.
Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess
Hmm.
I had a couple of newspaper clippings that I thought would be,
I have some newspaper clippings over
well,
here.
maybe you have them. I can't find them. Yeah, there you go. One of them is the ship we came in, the Marine Adder. I can't believe I kept all this stuff.
Well, it's good to keep.
There's a ship we come back on. There was 3,000 of us come back.
There we go. Marine Adder, which brought 2,833 Army enlisted men and 166 Army officers home from Korea Friday morning. Date.
Now, see, when that ship come in to Seattle,
August.
that was also at the same time that they celebrate what they call a seafarer. It's a big celebration they have, you know. And we were in buses and we drove down the street. All these people cheering and everything. Talk about a wonderful welcome.
Yeah.
That was it. Now this is a good typical idea of R&R. Start at the top.
R&R, here you are. Leaving. There you are with the gal. And then going back. Yeah, you look pretty sad to go back.
Some guy drew that of me. That's the way we were. Maybe you'd like to see. I thought that was kind of neat.
So when you came back, when your service had ended, you were in Michigan and then you came back to Springfield?
Yeah, I came back to Springfield for a 30-day leave. And then I went back to Fort Custer in Michigan and got my separation papers. Tried to get them to do it all at once, but they wouldn't do it.
So how much longer was that?
Yeah, it was all within the 2 years.
Uh-huh.
But had about a month in there. And
So you came back to Springfield, is that where you did you come back to Springfield after your service? And then did you go back to Sangamo Electric, or
Yep.
what did you do?
Yep.
They held your job for you?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm. And then you met your wife?
Uh,
Or did you know
probably
her?
a year later I met
Did you
her.
know her before you went over for service? No.
Well, it's just kind of a coincidence thing. I knew her father, used to work with her father
Mm-hmm,
when I was a kid in high school.
mm-hmm,
I worked at this bakery, and her dad was a salesman for that bakery.
mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the line, I think I met her, but
How did you meet her then?
well, I picked her up in a bar.
Yeah?
That's what I tell them.
What did you really, how did you really meet her?
We met through some friends.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't.
How old were you when you got married?
I shouldn't say that. It's kind of disrespectful to her.
No.
I lost
you're
her a
joking.
year and a half ago, you
Yeah,
know.
I know.
And,
Sorry.
but I always tell everybody, and she's just laughing and haul off and hit me or something like that. You know.
Mm-hmm.
We had a great marriage.
How long were you married?
61 years.
61 years. So
Yeah.
she put up with that for 61 years
Yes,
of you telling
exactly.
people you picked her up in a bar.
Pardon?
I said she put up with that for 61 years of you telling people you picked her up in a bar.
That's about right.
And how many children did you have?
4.
4. Okay. Is there anything how do I want to say this, that triggers memories, flashbacks, anything like that? Is there anything current day that causes you to flash back to Korea, or a smell, or anything? Good memory, bad memory?
Well, one of the kind of like a good memory
Mhm.
is when we would talk about the holidays, you know, Christmas time and so forth.
Mhm.
I remember when I shipped out. You got enough time?
Oh, yes, yeah, absolutely. I was just looking to see what time. Yeah, we're good.
You know, when I shipped out from, let's see, I guess shipped out from Seattle. Yeah, Seattle. You know, I'm at this really place all by myself because everybody else has gone ahead of me. You know, I got red line
Mhm.
before I got on the ship,
Mhm.
and everybody else is gone. Basically all the people I knew are gone,
Mhm.
and as I got on the ship and as we started moving, they played Harbor Lights. You know, the band played Harbor Lights, and it was kind of a sentimental song, you know.
Mhm.
And I'm saying, oh boy, here I am going there, and I'm all by myself. There's 3,000 other guys there with me, you know.
Uh-huh.
But I got kind of remorseful, kind of a real punky feeling,
Mhm.
and didn't last long.
Mhm.
You know, what are you going to do about it? You know?
Right.
But I think of that every so often,
Mhm.
and especially if I hear that song.
If you hear that song.
Oh boy.
Mhm.
And but again, it's no different than the other. It's all, you know, you're not, you know, I have to say that, well, I'm not a little kid. I can't let that stuff bother me.
No, I know.
So,
And I'm not, you know,
yeah.
it might bother you and it might not, you know what I'm saying? It
And
doesn't, it might
uh,
trigger a good memory. It might trigger a bad
did
memory.
you see our menu that we had for Christmas?
Um,
I don't know if it's in there or it was in.
yes. It's here. Let me, right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Christmas menu, 1951. Do you want to?
I don't remember all this food.
You don't remember it?
We, you know, we got all this.
Can you read that to me? What did you have?
Well, what we were supposed to have or
Yeah.
what we had.
What did it? Oh, Okay, yeah, what were you supposed to have? What did you have?
Well, what we were supposed to have: stuffed olives, sweet pickles, celery sticks,
And you didn't have this, you're saying?
spiced tomato juice cocktail,
Mhm,
shrimp cocktail,
mhm.
roast turkey with celery dressing, then the gravy, cranberry sauce, potatoes and sweet potatoes, and buttered green beans, fruit salad and Parker House rolls and butter and hot mincemeat pie.
And then what did you actually have?
Well, I know we got turkey.
Mhm.
We did get a turkey, and I remember I got a big drumstick, just bigger than anything, just great. And got potatoes, and I don't know about the beans, or I don't remember. But the rolls, and I don't recall the mincemeat pie, but said or fruit cake, and I think I can recall we did get fruit cake.
Mhm.
And then of course coffee, oranges, apples, and all that sort of stuff. But what made me laugh is that all this stuff here, we didn't get.
Mhm.
And I can remember, well, that drumstick, I'll be honest, it was so big that I got a piece of newspaper and wrapped up what was left, I couldn't wrap it up, stick it in my pocket. and just eat off that later on. Of course, I can always laugh about the beef liver that we got. I don't know if you like beef liver, but I sure don't.
No.
But got this piece of beef liver.
For Christmas or normal?
Oh,
Your every
somewhere along there,
meal. Yeah.
It must have been that thick.
Mhm.
And it was like beef jerky. If
Mhm.
you've ever eaten jerky,
Mhm.
you know how you chew that?
Mhm.
And you chew it,
Mhm.
and you keep on chewing it, and finally you get rid of it and take another bite. Oh, that was tough stuff. But I always laugh about that because I did the same thing there. Wrap it up in newspaper and stick it in my pocket.
But you didn't have all that at Christmas. I know you said you had sea rations. Did you have like fresh fruits and vegetables daily?
No, not daily, but we didn't eat bad. We
Mhm.
ate okay. I mean, it wasn't fancy, but we didn't have sea rations every day, and that wasn't too bad. But we had, I would say, at least half the time, maybe more, where we got something that's halfway prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't too bad.
Okay. Have you been on the honor flight?
Yes,
Yes.
I went on the honor flight, the first one that took Korean veterans.
Mm-hmm.
I was on it.
Did you enjoy that?
Yes, very much. I had been through there before on my own, but I enjoyed that flight very much. That's in fact, they got a meeting coming up, or a reunion coming up, maybe this weekend or the following weekend. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be out on Toronto Road, that Southside Christian Church or something like that. And if I can, I'll go to it.
Okay. Is there any other memorable experiences or anything you'd like to share? Anything that you want to add? How did you feel when your service was over? I mean, were you just excited? Were you
No, not excited, relieved.
relieved?
Yes, I was happy to get out. I had an opportunity, there's probably a letter in here somewhere, to, I was in Korea at the time, to get a battlefield commission. And,
And what is that?
well, what they were offering was to send me down to some camp or something in South Korea for 3 months. And I thought that was great. Gee, get off the line, just get down there for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was super.
Mm-hmm.
But finally I asked one question too many. I asked, uh, what do I have to do to get it?
Okay.
So, well, you'll come out a second lieutenant and you'll be right in the same outfit. And I said, I figure that. What do I have to do to get it? Well, you have to spend one more year here in Korea.
Oh. No, thank you.
Just about that way. I thought about it. But I really didn't want to stay in Korea. And I really didn't like the Army that well. What's the point of me becoming a second lieutenant if I'm not going to stay in, you know?
Mhm.
And so I turned it down.
What was the worst part of Korea for you?
I think the worst part of Korea were two things. One was the winter.
Mhm.
It was cold.
Mhm.
And the other thing, the constant pressure that we had, the constant pressure of taking care of myself and also being responsible for 25 other guys.
Mhm.
And that just worked on me. Oh, no, I didn't like that.
Mhm. Did you have trouble adjusting when you came back? Did you?
Yeah, I've never really said anything to anybody about it, but
Were
coming
you?
back, you know, the only people who gave me a hard time, you know, were World War II veterans
And how? What kind of?
because we couldn't whip those guys. We didn't win it. And here they had fought 4 hard, long years and whipped Japan in one of the big imperial countries, and we couldn't take care of that little old Korean outfit.
Mhm.
And that bothered me more than anything. And I mean, it bothered me.
Mhm.
Every time one of those guys would see me, I'd, talk about it, I'd have to get up and leave.
Mhm.
I'd get so mad.
Mhm.
And that was my God. I lost focus of what I was trying to do. And I felt, well, I tried hard enough. Why don't they just leave me alone?
Mhm.
It didn't
But
work
they
that
did.
way.
That's it.
But that bothered me a lot. And I come into the train station up here on Madison, whatever train station that is. I come in, a lot of people there. Get off, got a duffel bag, get off the train. People look at me and say, "Where you been?" Like they don't even know a war is on. That's all. Indifference.
Mhm.
People were indifferent. I didn't expect them to treat me as a hero because I wasn't. I'm just a guy doing his job. But doggone, it made me so mad. Now my family didn't meet me when I got to the train station, but that was my fault.
Because you told them the wrong time or something,
Well,
or you didn't want them there.
I come through Chicago,
Mhm.
and I spent the night in Chicago, and I wasn't supposed to. So so I called him and said, "Don't meet because I don't know when I'm going to get in." So I can't blame him for that, But it just so. And I expect I know what some of these Vietnam guys are talking about. I know exactly what they're talking about,
Mhm.
and just some people are so insensitive,
Mhm.
and you don't expect them to, you know, treat you, like a hero because you're not,
But
and
you
yet,
are.
and yet, you got these jokers that give me, why didn't you whip those little guys? We did this. And you just make me sit up,
Mhm.
and I got to drinking.
Mhm.
I I'd go into this bar and sit in the booth way in the far corner. Just sit there and drink. Because that way they left me alone. But then I met my wife. And it wasn't in that bar. So it works out. If you just,
She brought you out of it.
well, yes, she brought me out of the barbaric stage.
Mhm.
Now, I always called all us guys that come home, like on that ship, and we come into Seattle, and we go to these places, and uh, you forget how to act. You forget your manners. But with a strong family and a good woman, I made it.
Yes, you did.
That's the difference. I tell you, it's got nothing to do with it. But when I lost my wife, I'm living by myself now,
Mhm.
and that is no good. So I've got a very, very strong family. Well, Mark is a good example,
Mhm.
and his kids, and I got a very strong family, and there isn't hardly a day goes by, a day, where some member of my family isn't stopping at my house for whatever reason.
You've raised them well.
Pardon?
You've raised them well.
Well, I sure hope I did,
I think you
because
did.
I never thought it could be so lonely when I lost my wife.
Mhm.
But again, you got a strong family, you got a good
Mhm.
chance.
Yeah, and you do. You
And-
have a
and-
family.
And I'm certainly not looking for another woman. I'll tell you that right now.
They're
that-
trouble.
Huh?
Those women are trouble.
Oh yeah, but you God bless them. You gotta have them. They're nice, but seriously, it could be a lot worse. And that's one reason why I do everything I can.
Mhm.
Volunteer here.
Mhm.
I went to the Red Cross and took a course in CPR and that a couple other things, simply because why not?
Exactly.
It's not going to do me any good, but why not?
Mhm.
It was something to do.
Mhm.
And I go to these, like Memorial Hospital, they have grief groups, and
Mhm.
they go to dinner and they have meetings, and hey, you betcha I'll go. I go to all of them, but you got to keep busy.
Mhm.
Anyway, we are digressing all over the place.
No, this is totally fine. I just want to say, you talked about you're not a hero. You are a hero,
Well,
and you sacrificed, and
thank you.
you did, and I appreciate it.
But I could probably think of other things too. I like to keep everything on a light note.
Mhm.
I don't want to get serious.
It's totally fine.
Pardon?
I said that is totally fine. Keeping it on a light note. I think you.
That's the only way to do it.
If there's something else you would like to add, we
I
can
don't
add
know.
it.
I'm trying to think.
Everything that stays secret.
Oh,
Are you okay with all
she
these?
said there's something in here stamped secret.
Oh,
Can we see that?
that's this. I think this is.
No, that's the
No,
map.
that's not it.
That's the map.
That's what this was. Did you?
That's the menu. We saw that.
Yeah, this is the type of map that we had. When I told you that we would move from one place to another.
Right.
Well, this is what we had for directions. The entire battalion would move in a truck convoy and go down these roads and go to that place, and we'd set up.
So where that's written in red, that's where you were headed to?
I guess, yeah.
I'll let you look at it. And do you know? Is that where you were headed to?
Yeah. That was Kumwa, yeah. Now, see, Kumwa was part of that iron triangle that I pointed out
Uh-huh.
to you.
Uh-huh.
I think it's the bottom juncture of that triangle.
Yep. It is.
This is a good map. I don't know how I ever got it. And, this came from Stars and Stripes, I think. But you look,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the map and start relating, let's see. Um, Now, there's the Iron Triangle. 38th parallel is right in here
It's
somewhere.
right here.
And there's Yalu, the Yalu River, the north border, China and Russia.
Uh-huh.
And those Marines, and Army guys, a whole bunch of them, got caught up there by the Chinese when they come through. Remember when, the guys, well, MacArthur, don't get me started on him. But anyway, when they went up north, they decided that the MacArthur decided he was going to make make Korea back to one nation. And of course, in doing so, he's going to thoroughly infuriate China and Russia. So he gets up there and he starts talking about bombing these areas that are on the Chinese side of the river and everything. And the Chinese sneak better than 200,000 troops across the river, just walk them across the ice. It's frozen, across, and they get them in there and they travel only at night. And our patrols kept on picking up Chinese prisoners. And what's going on? Well, MacArthur, and I'm going to stop after this one because I don't want to get started on MacArthur. But MacArthur had a chief of staff. The guy he was a general, chief of staff of MacArthur's headquarter group. And they'd say, hey, look, we're getting Chinese prisoners. And he'd come back and he said, now you're not going to let a few Chinese laundrymen bother you, are you? And I guess the place went crazy. No wonder we don't like MacArthur. But to insult them like that, and they wouldn't acknowledge they were Chinese, and we just got our butts kicked up there. Here's that Wonsan Harbor. You talk about over here where those ships are. That's where the Navy went in and cleared the minefields and rescued several 100,000 American troops and Korean troops and another 100,000 refugees. A lot of history in there.
Yeah, there is.
And
thank you for
you
sharing
don't
that.
want to get a guy like me started on General MacArthur. That son of a gun. He was an arrogant doggone guy. He was a genius, but he was an arrogant son of a gun.
Did you ever meet him?
No, I wouldn't want to meet him for nothing.
I didn't know if your work paths crossed.
I was nowhere near on the same level he was.
Okay.
He, I should have got started on that one.
No, that's okay. We're recording your story.
Did I tell you about the crest?
Yes, you
Oh,
did.
okay.
Yes, thank you.
You know that crest now, that is now a Brooklyn National Guard group. They may be disbanded now. I don't know. I never did hear.
Mhm.
But somewhere in the Second World War, they were changed from designation of a infantry regiment to a field artillery battalion.
Interesting.
Pardon?
That's interesting.
And
Yeah.
I think I told you that.
Yes, you did.
I better quit. I think I'm
No.
repeating myself.
All
now.
right. We will then wrap it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming in and sharing your story
Well,
with us.
thank you for listening to me.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome. Before we leave, if you don't mind, I would like to say a little prayer,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
We don't have to stand up, just. Father in heaven, it is my thanks to you that I was able to do the things that I have, through the encouragement of people like we have here. So, Father, be with these ladies. Present a clear picture in their minds of what they're trying to accomplish. Above all, Heavenly Father, help me give them thanks for their cooperation and their protection, and above all, that the ingenuity that they've used to help me remember the things that I have experienced. Give them good health, Father, and I think it thanks to Thee. Amen.
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 Thank you.